In Uganda today, the courtroom has become a stage where justice and politics often collide. Tonight, we hear from a lawyer who has navigated both the law and its shortcomings, both behind bars and in the courtroom. Eron Kiiza's story raises questions about the military justice in this country, civil liberties, and the diminishing space for dissent. From representing missing persons to challenging the state excesses, his legal journey is both risky and bold, and he shares his experience about the rule of law, governance, and human rights. The question is our democracy secure or slipping through the cracks? Welcome to the Hard Questions Show. I'm Solomon Serwanjja, and today it's my honor to host someone who has been behind bars, Eron Kiiza. Thank you so much for accepting to be on the show just a week after you were granted bail. Karibu.
Asante sana. It's my delight to address this audience.
I'm really happy. Eron, I've covered court, I've been with you in the thick of it, and I've seen you represent different clients in the courtroom, really pushing back against human rights violations, going the distance. This time around, you were in the courtroom representing retired Dr. Kiiza BCJ, and before a military court. That is where you were charged with contempt of court, sentenced to 90 days, and then I just read that it's supposed to be 30. But anyway, walk us back in time that day when you were before the courtroom. Perhaps, there are things that we saw on TV, there are things that we remember, but there are also the untold things, the untold story that we don't know about. What happened that day and the days that came after it?
The day started normally from home. I went for breakfast with friends in town. Some of the lawyers, we drove. I was the driver that day. I drove to Machinde, to the offices of the tribunal. And it looked normal, but of course, the military tribunal has its own strictures. Since we started there, they would even pose roadblocks on the gate. Right from the gate, they screen who gets in, they inconvenience people. So getting inside the gate itself of the military tribunal was always problematic. They wanted to strip us of phones, laptops, pens, whatever you use as a journalist, as a lawyer in a courtroom, in a tribunal. They don't want you to go with it. You don't know how they want you to perform. Once you pass the gate, then getting into the office itself, where the tribunal sits, it's another problem, another checking. It would take us hours, like 3 hours to get cleared, the BCJ team specifically. And that would be almost 50 lawyers, and they would still waste our time. Sometimes they would come with their own concocted lists of who they think should represent BCJ and Chitalia. Of course, really? Yes, I'm telling you that, and I'm on camera. They would exclude some lawyers, would insist until they would include all the lawyers, would write them down, and back and forth lists. But we were very clear from the onset that no one is going to choose BCJ's lawyer except BCJ himself. So whatever they did would resist until they accepted that they cannot pick lawyers for BCJ. And in some of the lists I was missing, to be very clear. From the word go, they were very uncomfortable with my presence. Yet I have a lot of experience, both in civilian and courts and military tribunals, because I've been representing people since the days of late Levi Karahanga, may his soul rest in peace, in the Rwenzori, before General Guti, and now this new upstart called Freeman, who lacks legal education. So that was on the day. I know the drama comes later, but previously, people had warned me. I'd got calls from Honorable Medadi Segwana telling me about they were planning to arrest me before the day, but I didn't take it seriously because I receive all these threats in my human rights work. So, yeah, like the threats are part of a serious human rights career in a military dictatorship, but you think they will not yield. You think you're going to do your work, or you think that if it happens, it happened. Then it's an inconveniencing journey, the journey of representing people who are hated by the state, the dissidents, the critics, the opposition people. It's murky, it's thorny, and you are confused with your clients, or you are taken to be part of your client, and the enmity, the vitriol that they visit upon them spreads to you as a professional, even if you are only doing your work as a lawyer, or even, I mean, sometimes it has spilled to journalists, losing cameras, being beaten, being crippled, and so on and so forth. It's part of that. So Segona informs me. Wakafuzi calls me. I go to his home. We discuss the threats. And of course, someone also had informed the Besje's wife about it, Winnie, whom I also talked to, and she wasn't clear, but it was very clear that she was suspecting they were cooking something for me because of the work I was doing. I don't know why it act them so much, tell them the truth that they had no jurisdiction. They haven't detained Supreme Court judges who said what we were telling them that they didn't want to hear. So they singled some of us out, but there was a list of people they wanted to arrest, and I was on top of that list. I understand Ingrid was also on that list. So they were engaged in a campaign of intimidation, of blackmail, of propaganda against key elements of the defense team and the support system. But it was ambiguous. We didn't know when they would strike, or if we also hoped that the sense might prevail, because we normally understand that there are debates internally. Should we arrest him? Should we not?
Yeah.
And we hope that the good sense prevails. This time it was the bad guys that got their way.
Yeah, before you get into the courtroom, was it unusual? Because I mean, I've covered the military tribunal before. Usually, there is that security check that you go through at the gate. I mean, I think it's part of protocol. They check you before you get into the courtroom. Was it different this time around for the BCJ?
Yeah, it was different. It was more stringent, as I've already indicated. I've been practicing there since 2014 when I was a young lawyer, and that's over a decade of experience in that court. I know the routine protocols, and I know the protocols which are meant to harass people, which are meant to block them. Almost everyone that went there, including journalists, by the way, found a problem entering that court beyond the routine security checks, which we are all aware of and whose importance we really appreciate. But this time they were meant on limiting some lawyers from entering the court.
Okay, interesting. So you move into court. What then happened?
So on the D-Day, that's the 7th of January 2025, they start reading some names for lawyers to enter. They read mine, I think it was like the 3rd or 4th, thereabouts. And I was entering, I saw Raphael. Raphael was ahead of me, and I was following him to the courtroom. And there was, I think it was something of a plan. So once he reached almost a meter to the gentleman who stopped me, he diverted and took another route. I continued because I knew where I was going. I was going to the bar where the lawyers sit and do their work. As I continued, he blocked me. There was a man with shades, military goggles, shades, and fatigue and intimidating. Just in the room, in the courtroom, where the tribunal was sitting, there was a divider. The bar is divided from the rest of the courtroom with a metal bar, and they had locked it. And he was supposed to open. I would have opened for myself. And then he said, no, I can't enter. I said, no, I'm going to enter. This time, my clients were already in the dock, by the way. So we had this odd situation whereby even the clients, we find them in the dock, because for us lawyers we normally enter before the tribunal seats, before the judges sit and the client come in. But the tribunal were doing things in an odd way, their militaristic style. So I tried to enter and he refuses. He said, "You are not entering." I said, "I'm entering because if I'm going to court to the bar, I don't allow anyone to stop me. That I don't allow, I've not allowed it before and I didn't allow it then, I wouldn't allow it in the future. I have a practicing license. No one is questioning my legal knowledge or my legal credentials. And you can't be the one to tell Besige and Rutare who to represent them. And I was not having any of that from someone just because someone is wielding a gun. I tried to open and he physically restrained me. Then I protested loudly. I said, no, this is not going to happen. As I was doing that, the judge advocate and the chairman, and they were communicating. I wasn't paying too much attention to them. And the arrest order came in and I had people roughing me up, beating me up, taking me. Initially, I thought they were taking me to their offices. I didn't know. It was very confusing. I didn't know. I was anxious. Where are they taking me? Eventually, they were taking me at breakneck speed. Then they took me to the dock. But before reaching the dock, of course, people were they were crying, shouting, making noise, and protesting about the misconduct that was visiting me. I threw my phone and laptop to a colleague because my experience shows me that that's one of the primary targets. They really roughed me up, took me to the dock, and in the dock, I kept my mojo. I hugged Besige, I hugged Rutare, and I acknowledged the cheers of the courtroom people.
Yeah.
That acted them.
Yeah.
That acted them because the whole point of roughing me up was to intimidate me. That whole day they spent it begging for me to apologize to them so that they could let me go. So once I hugged and so on, they saw that this was a man not beaten. Yes, we had roughed him up, but his spirit was strong. That triggered the uneducated chairman to order that I'm taken off the dock. And I didn't know what this was about. That was when the thorough beating began.
We'll come to that, but let's go back to the courtroom. So you tell the soldier, look, I have to represent my client. I have to be in the bar. He refuses. There are people, and you're justified because you're a lawyer. You've come to represent your client. There are people who thought that you could have addressed the issue differently. We've had different quarters saying, well, Eron has practiced in the courts. This time he raises his voice, and perhaps you couldn't manage his emotions and anger at that time.
They are naive. They are naive. Raising one's voice, protesting peacefully, it's a constitutional right. It's a human instinct, and it does not warrant torture, does not warrant assault that they visited on me. It does not warrant judicial harassment and sentence of 9 months. People behave differently under pressure, and especially under military pressure, and they protest differently to a violation of their rights. This is my workplace. I do these things for a living. And here is a stranger, an ignorant stranger, a group of ignorants trying to stop me. So I am entitled to loudly to protest. But not only is it my entitlement, it's also my duty. We need to be very loud in our protest against injustice. Silence kills. We can't afford to be silent in the face of injustice. We have voices to use. It is our duty to voice our protest, our distaste for repression and oppression, and it's our duty not to be intimidated, to refuse to be fearful, just because gun-wielding men, ignorant about the law or how it should be done, are trying to intimidate us. I don't think I was wrong. I think my critics are naive, and most of them have no idea about how one should go about practicing in military courts, or how they should react to military dictatorship expressing itself in the form of the kangaroo military tribunal that my clients were being arraigned before.
Do you think that Freeman Mugabe would have reined in to let you get into the bar as the chairperson of the
Well,
court?
Freeman is ignorant about legal processes, so to expect him to do the right thing is being very ambitious. I don't think Freeman knew what to do, or I didn't expect him to do better than he did. He was clueless, and that's it. Freeman knows no law, knows nothing to do. It was Freeman being Freeman.
And then you are taken in the dock, put out, and you talked about the torture. What happened?
So as I was, especially as I was being stripped from the dock into the military holding cell at Machinde, they beat me, my head, they were kicking, slapping, batons, they put batons on my head, especially this side. I had injury in my ear. I showed these injuries to the people who visited me in the first 2 weeks. They injured my ribs, both sides of the ribs. I had scars. They tore my lip, the lower lip. Up to now, I cannot squat for long. I am still trying to manage the squatting, recovering myself. They beat the register yesterday. They beat my chest. I couldn't laugh heartily for like 2 months. They gave me a thorough beating, and I started wondering what would have happened had they stayed with me for much longer. I was very lucky that despite that thorough beating I got in that brief time, I was removed from their hands to a civilian prison services, who for them were decent.
Where did this beating happen? Did it happen in the
Between
court premises?
yes.
Or
In the court
where?
premises, between the dock of the military tribunal where I was standing, initially with West General Rotary, but ultimately after before sentencing. Okay, no. Yes, as I was with Rotary and West in the dock, and I showed that I was still strong, they removed me. When they ordered my removal from the dock, that's when the beating happened. Between that dock, it's a short distance, into the military cells. They beat me until they were restrained by fellow cellmates in the military holding cell, saying, "Why are you beating him?" They tore my suit, that blue suit I was always putting on. They tore it. I am not going to mend it. It's a monumental. But most importantly, they tore my body. And of course, that was the height of intimidation. When they are at a loss of what to do, their next button is just beat you up physically.
Wow. What do you make of the case of that they charged you with contempt of court?
It's them who are contemptuous of the constitutional court orders, which had frozen their proceedings even long before the Supreme Court came in. I'm telling you, these guys were ignorant, clueless guys, didn't know what to do with civilian, didn't know how to conduct court in a civil manner. They had no idea about the rule of law. They had no idea about fair hearing. Whenever we tried to teach them, they would be annoyed, and that's why I was beaten. So they were outrageous. This was a shambolic exercise. This was a kangaroo court being a kangaroo court. So we didn't expect them to know these things, but we thought that their association with us would educate them about these basic legal principles. We tried, and the result was I was beaten, I was detained. When in our attempts to educate them about these basic legal principles, they saw that was contempt. So if spreading knowledge is contempt, I cheerfully submit that to that kind of contempt. I would commit it every day. I am always spreading knowledge. The knowledge I get from books, from what. So for me, it's something I do routinely. If spreading ideas and knowledge is contempt, then I am guilty of it on a daily basis.
I mean, yes, after that you are handed over to, Uganda Prison Services. But let's go back to the people who beat you. within that transition. What are you going to do about it? I mean, someone beat you. You told me they
I have 10 years. I have 10 years to think about it. That's the limitation for torture. I'm not in a hurry to sue them, to be very clear, because I have to recover. I have to pick a lawyer. It's not a priority for me, but at least speaking out, the legal option is not a priority for me. But I hope that by speaking out against that torture they visited on me, I am doing something about it. I am documenting it. And for me, that's the important thing. But we shall not get tired of criticizing military dictatorship in Uganda, whether it expresses itself in form of military tribunals or in terms of jet-like experiences that the people of Kawempe faced, or any other manifestations. That's a continuing duty. We shall continue performing, trying to resist military dictatorship, trying to pursue legal remedies that militate against the militarism in the tribunals, on the streets, and in other manifestations. And that's where my focus is. That's my life's adult life's commitment. I will be doing my work. I'm not going to be distracted by people who beat me into running after them. It is very difficult to use a legal remedy on people who don't appreciate the law.
You know why I asked this, Eron? Because you represented Kakwenza.
Yes, I do.
Who was beaten,
Yes.
and the courts ruled that he was tortured.
Yes.
And
It's
they
not
awarded
just-
him.
I have represented so many
Yeah,
people
who have been tortured. This
Yeah,
time you were the person who was being tortured.
So the thing about the lawyers is that they are reluctant to sue because they understand the court system more than any other person. It takes years. How long did I take to get a remedy for Kakwenza, for Zake? It takes years. Do I have that time? Probably not. That's why I'm telling you. I'm not saying I want to do it. I have 10 years to decide whether I need to do that. So there is a limitation time within which you can't sue. So in fact, for torture, you don't have that limitation. You can always come up with it. So I have time. I have time to sue about the violation of my rights. Torture, fair hearing, mine were non-derogable rights, so I don't really have a lot of time limitation. But other rights, they normally limit them within 10 years. So the time is there. I'm not rushing it.
Okay. So you were taken, you transferred to the Uganda Prison Services. The Supreme Court made a ruling. How did that make you feel?
It made me feel vindicated. It gave me joy, and it gave me hope that it would augment my challenge to the legality of the orders and sentence of the kangaroo military tribunal headed by the uneducated freeman. Yeah, it gave me hope, and it strengthened my resolve to legally fight that case. It didn't just give me hope, it gave other inmates hope. I was detained in Chitalia. More than half of them are from military courts. Most of them were affected by that Supreme Court judgment. It gave them hope. Many are civilians, although there are some soldiers. So we're talking about over 1,000 people who were jubilating in that prison over the Supreme Court judgment. Of course, the implementation of it has proved problematic, and you could argue that I am the first beneficiary of that, the first or second beneficiary of that judgment. Besij's case was, of course, transferred to the civilian courts, and that was the first incident, but I am the one to first gain freedom from that Supreme Court judgment by way of bail pending appeal. So the implementation has been more than slow. And that's because there is interference. You heard the discussions that the prison authorities could have released all of these people, but of course they are also subject to the state intimidation. If I call it a military dictatorship, it's because it is. They don't even release prisoners after the Supreme Court has nullified the legal basis for their imprisonment. So if they can't listen to the Supreme Court, who are they going to listen to? These are dictators. These are oppressors.
Yeah. You're in Chitalia for all this time that you have been. How has life been for you behind bars?
it educated me about, of course, I'm a human rights lawyer, I know about freedom and liberty, but it gave me a unique education that I would never have got from reading books representing people. Freedom is precious, it's priceless, it's just unrivaled in terms of it's being a pillar for human dignity, for human happiness, for human welfare. And that awareness was very amplified by my experience behind the bars. You can't move, you can't choose, you can't even lock your door at night, you can't open it in the morning. You wonder if there was a fire, what would happen to you? Would they come quickly enough to open, or the fire would gut you? God forbid. So you think of all of those things. You can't do your work outside. There are instructions you're going to give, and the implementation, like you and I who are managers, like it's a different world. It's a different world. However, I tried my best to be positive. The biggest challenge was mental. As you can see, all those things are happening in my mind. I'm imagining what I can't do this, I can do this, I can do what this. So the mental fortitude is the biggest ally of a detainee, especially a detainee of a prison of conscience. Because if you break at the mental level, then you're finished. Then your immune system is undermined. Then you may become wayward in your conduct. Things can spiral out of control. You get physically sick. So I tried very hard to keep to remain level-headed, to be myself, but the struggle was there. I was tired of detention, and I was very honest with my people that, no, I'm tired of detention. The only thing I was not going to do was to break, of course. They always were willing to release me if I could apologize to them, but they owed me an apology. I was beaten, I was denied my opportunity to work, and flabbergastingly, they wanted me to apologize to them, God knows for what. So,
yeah, I mean, look, and that's the thing. You talked about it being broken. Just you putting on a yellow uniform.
the yellow uniform broke my visitors more than it affected me. I accepted that I was a detainee. I was ready to play ball. I was not going to have any quarrels with the prisons officers and so on and so forth. I was going to do what they told me. That was my resolution.
Tell me how your day was of getting into prison. Walk us into the corridors. You get in there.
So I get sentenced at the military tribunal in Machinde, and I go into the cell, and if some of my lawyers come and see me, some people gave me some money to help in prison. Then I give my car key to a friend. I think I gave it to Kato. Peter Nito came and saw me, Ingrid and Nyanjura. So I speak to them, then I have to go. Of course, you go you're handcuffed. And out, as I was moving out, we took the rear side. They didn't want, of course, people to see me. There's a rear side of the court-martial premises. And there were all sorts of soldiers, again, like the type that had tortured me, that had roughed me. I was wondering, now, am I going to really even going to Chitalia, or am I passing in Mbuya? Because I know all of these things from my experience as a lawyer. Luckily, I didn't pass in Mbuya. I got into a van, a military van. It is all covered, and the air is not enough. So I get in Uzaya as I'm traveling. It is riding at breakneck speed. It's actually a convoy. We move in a convoy at a terrible speed. And I was wondering, are we going to collide? So there was a lot of anxiety, uncertainty relating to my journey from Machinde to Chitalia, and it took less than an hour. And you know the typical journey takes 1.5 hours on our roads to Chitalia. It's very far, and the point of detaining people in Chitalia is that they are not seen. They want to hide you from the public. and yet your engagement with the public through is one of your sources of strength. Yeah, so I reached there, it was late, it was around 7. I had to change from the clothes, I had civilian clothes, the suit. One of the officers showed me where to go. I changed to the yellow uniform, and he told me that even the underwear, I'm supposed to remove it, but he was doing me a favor. They count my money, they keep it, I hand over whatever property I had. It was mostly shoes, even my shoes were taken off. I got slippers, sandals, sandals. So at that point, I was a detainee proper, in yellow uniform, in sandals, no belt on, nothing. And a prisons officer accompanied me. SAP, of course, was not there. They had finished it, but they took me to the kitchen. I tried the food. It was terrible. Also tasted bitter. The beans were impossible. But I tried to eat it because I was determined to do whatever the other prisoners were doing. But I couldn't manage the food, so they showed me where to sleep. Small room, we were sharing it with 2 others, were 3. That still was a privilege because there are bigger wards where everyone sleeps and they share 5 people a mattress. So I had a mattress to myself. That was a privilege, and instead of hundreds of neighbors, I had only 2. That small corridor, small cubicle. They didn't treat me bad. The prisons officers, generally speaking, they were okay. My problem really was not with them. It was with the kangaroo military tribunal, headed by the cruelest freeman, and Tukachungura, the so-called judge advocate. Those were the problems.
Yeah. When you were in there, did you look, when you're in there, what did you want the world to do for you? I mean, this time you are voiceless. You're in there, you fought against human rights violations. This time you're in there. Did you feel that the world supported you from the outside? Or
yeah.
What did you want? What was your cry in your heart when you were sleeping on that little mattress looking at the roof?
Just what I got to the solidarity, people doing for me what I did for, what I normally do for comrades who are detained. Amplify the voice, call out my captors and call out the injustice, and fight the propaganda, because government always comes up with propaganda. Some of it was in the so-called one-page, really shambolic order. The visits were very important. I received enough. The court interventions were there. So I wanted people doing the legal work and doing the solidarity, the advocacy, and that I got. So I would know, they would brief me what is happening outside whenever they visited me. So I'm happy with my comrades that they put up a resistance to my unjust incarceration. It took long to rescue me, but the context was clear to me. I knew who was detaining me. It was not just those commandos, it was their bosses. It was the military institution crushing me for standing up to it, for speaking out for Besigye and Rutale, for externalizing their pretenses, and so on and so forth. So, and I know the grip they have on the institutions that are supposed to help me, judiciary and the entire justice sector. So it was not, I was not oblivious of the challenges. I was not oblivious. Yeah. I knew it was possible, that I could even last all the 9 months there, not because I should, but because institutions have died in this country.
What were your fears when you were inside prison?
When you're in detention, you are almost numbed, but when you start interacting with your family and friends, then the fears come because one, as they try to console you, you get emotional. Then they tell you stories of other prisoners who are the ones who have got problems. Like the biggest challenge was the Segirinya story, because they were telling me people went to my people and told them that Segirinya got problems from Chigo, and especially the medical unit. So they say, keep away from it, one of Chitalia. Then there are stories of poison. It's not prevalent, but it can't be ruled out. I mean, if poison can find its way outside detention, then what about inside detention when you are chained? So at a mental level, you are saying anything. Then, of course, you are under 24-hour watch. The government is spying on you. What are you saying? Who are you talking to? That kind of environment. You are like under a CCTV camera 24 hours. And whoever comes to visit you, there are daily reports on who has come to visit you. Basically, that kind of thing, because you are a profiled detainee. You're a prisoner of conscience, a political prisoner. There is an air of surveillance around you. Of course, you shrug it off. You try to live a normal life, but it's not lost on you.
Yeah. Well, outside here, there was a big campaign, Free Eron Kiiza, online, in different open spaces. But also, I noticed a deafening silence from the diplomatic corps.
Yeah, it didn't start with me. It started with the Vice General, if I remember. We are dealing with a new season of diplomats, or diplomacy, if I say. They have been intimidated by the first son. You know very well that the American ambassador was threatened on the first son's Twitter with an arrest. He has been threatening foreign countries. So the context in which the diplomats are operating is new, and they have scaled down, and they are all into what the Thabo Mbeki called quiet diplomacy. Quiet diplomacy. So even mere statements are no longer coming from them. We are disappointed as the Human Rights Corps, but it's clear where it's coming from. We thought that it is the diplomats they would listen to, but now we see that the military dictators of Uganda have even reached the level of intimidating the diplomats. So one wonders, whom are they going to listen to? Or for how long would the diplomats tolerate this kind of intimidation and silencing of their voices on the Ugandan stage? For how long? At some point, they have to realize that one, doesn't work. Two, it is counterproductive for the work we think they are here to do, which is promote the interests of their states, including their open commitment to fundamental human rights.
Yeah, I had to ask that. But Eron, we're glad that you're out, but barely 3 days after you got out, then the ruling for Dr. Kiiza Besigye's bail application was due, and you were in court, and clearly Dr. Kiiza Besigye was denied bail by, Judge Comfort Kani. You were in court that day. What did you make of that ruling? I mean, this is your client. I mean, it's only fair that I ask you. Yeah.
It was an unfair ruling, and it was emblematic of the consequences of intimidation and strangling of the judiciary by the executive. You see, the Justice Kania struggled but failed to get a reason to justify the denial of bail. And she had to be creative and speculative to deny bail. So the only reason she denied Besigye and retired bail is because she can, because she could, because she has the power to both grant it and and deny it. So there was no compelling reason why their liberty was denied. It's because she did it because she could. She succumbed to the pressure. It's simple.
I mean, I don't have to be a lawyer to know the factors of granting bail.
Yeah.
Substantial sureties.
She admitted they were there.
Yeah, place of abode and residence.
She agreed they had. or I wouldn't want to repeat like the presumption of innocence.
Presumption of innocence.
Yeah. So there is no.
But she gave
the advanced age. They are over advanced age. So there's no the only later.
She said that Dr. Kiiza Besigye is influential and could affect the investigation process into the case.
Yeah, we have had not just opposition leaders, but government ministers being given bail. The vice president of this country has been given bail. And the alleged crimes, none of them was happened in Uganda. The solution really for that kind of situation is to restrict someone in the area where you think that there was a bail that was given to Mumbere when he was restricted to Uganda region. There was a bail granted to meet Kakwenza where they are detaining our passports and saying, like for me, in my case, I can go and ask for it when I need it. There is a solution to that situation where you think that someone is influential, which is not true. I don't see Besigye's influence in Kenya, unless you're saying Kenya can't protect their people. You're saying Switzerland of all places, Greece, these are countries that can protect. They are not only sovereign, but they are stronger states than Uganda. They have not claimed that they are any witness there is under intimidation. So I think it was speculative, the ultimate basis for her decision. But yeah, it is Uganda of 2026. There is a lot of intimidation, and I have no iota of doubt in my mind that this showed her yielding to intimidation, to fear. And of course, she had just been made the vice chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission. That is also an interesting angle to look at. We hope that the next bail decision she delivers will be more honest and more bold.
Yeah. In your own words, you described it as the judiciary being strangled by the executive. That's a big statement.
I mean it. They use the statements. The president has had a decades campaign against bail himself, in writing, in word, directed
Publicly
against the judges. When judges make any decision that he disagrees with, he lambasts them. In the recent Supreme Court judgment, it's not only him but his son, the CDF, that he gave vitriol against the judges and the judgment itself. And remember, the context we are in is still that post-judgment. Museveni wants Besigye and Rutare in a military tribunal. They are in a civilian court simply because the Supreme Court said so. So they are still being treated and being harassed as though they are in a military establishment. So they are trying to send a message to Ugandans and to that duo that nothing changes. Whether you are in a military tribunal or in a civilian court, you still can't get bail. And this is Museveni denying Besigye and Rutare bail. I think Comfort is just a conduit for it, but it's Besigye. If Museveni changes his mind, Besigye gets bail for tomorrow.
Yeah. So what next? Are you going to appeal or what's? I mean, Besigye is your case.
These bail decisions.
Yeah.
This bail decision, we don't appeal them. We shall apply afresh, and also think of other legal interventions to ameliorate the situation. But it is what it is. It's a difficult situation whereby the only reason Besigye and Rutare are behind bars is because Museveni still believes his own propaganda about the duo, and he's keen on keeping them. And unless we suddenly grow a judiciary that can stand up to him, then they will keep there. But that doesn't mean we give up. We keep doing our job.
Yeah. As we conclude, I know that our time is fast spent, but as we conclude, Aaron, are you broken or you are encouraged to keep going?
No, I'm not broken. I'm not broken. There is a lot of work for us to do. We have to keep doing it. This is our country. We happen to share it with some monsters. It is a sad reality. We must keep pushing against the people who believe in the good of this country, who want freedom, who want justice, must not give up on them until they actually get them. And I'm one of them. So I'm encouraged to continue pressing forward for rule of law.
Yeah. Eron Kiiza, thank you so much for speaking to us.
It has been my pleasure.
I am really grateful. So I have been speaking with Eron Kiiza. He's a seasoned lawyer, human rights lawyer, just fresh from Chitalia, just sharing his story and his journey as he pushes for justice. I'm Solomon Serwanjja. Thank you for watching. This is The Hard Questions.